Hey y'all! Welcome to Dead in the Heart of Texas. I am your co-host, Candace.
And I am your other co-host, Katie.
And we still need to think of those opening and ending lines.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
I feel like we say it and then we're like, now what?
Well, let's start with, what are you drinking right now?
Well, I bought this bottle of wine from H-E-B, and it's really good. It's a pink Moscato.
And H-E-B is a Texas grocery store.
Yeah, H-E-B is like godsend.
We don't have it up here.
I feel sorry for the other states that don't have it. They try to focus on having a lot of their produce and products come from Texas. But they do outsource to other places, but they make sure it's like a family-owned business or it's like sourced ethically, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me. But yeah, that's what I'm drinking. What about you and is that the mug I bought you?
Yeah, it says Rise and Shine. And while it's not physically the morning, it is a good way to make sure I'm alert, which I am not. But that's okay.
Are you
drinking Target wine again?
Gotta love some Target wine. I'm just gonna let you know I'm a little bit more hyper than I normally am. I just had some French press coffee earlier. So feeling pretty energized even though I've been up since like 5 a.m.
Yay!
8:30 right now. I feel like the swoop kind of reminds me of very 90s, like Phoebe Buffet.
But she always looks fabulous. As do you. This is just like, oh, is that supposed to be how it goes?
It looks like it's thicker and it's longer and it's like curly.
Well, Phoebe Buffet also had like stylists on set to make it sure it looked good. We don't have luxury.
Yeah, I also have no idea how to style my hair.
YouTube.
I suck at it. I've watched YouTube videos since middle school and I've never been able to do my hair.
I still want to do like a French twist. I want to know how to do that.
Oh, that'd be so pretty. Are you going to do that for the wedding?
I think I want it down and curled.
Down and curled?
Maybe with some flowers.
So some girl was getting married at my workplace today. Like, yeah, they were having the ceremony and reception there after work ended. And so she got there right as I was leaving. And she had her hair all down and it was curled. And she had her hair kind of like pulled back in like a half updo. And she had like baby's breath flowers sticking out of her hair in the back. Her makeup looked on point. She was really pretty.
But why have it there?
Yeah, I know. It's just so weird. Why would you want to have your wedding at a children's museum?
Maybe sentimental value.
I don't. Maybe, but it's only been there for 5 years.
Oh.
So I don't know. I mean, apparently there's been people who have had their wedding there. It's a cool museum, but I don't think it's like wedding worthy.
No, it's cool. It's just, though it has pretty lighting, so maybe that's it.
Maybe she was having the ceremony in the backyard, an events courtyard.
Isn't that where that playground is?
It's like there's like a back part, and there's like a wooden pergola.
Well, I'm not gonna do that. No offense to your work.
No, I would judge you if you're like, I'm gonna have my wedding at Candace's museum. You're like, I don't endorse that.
I liked my venue, but I am not saying the name until we become famous.
But yeah, no, it looks really pretty.
All right, shall I start us off with some true crime?
Yes.
Okay, so Candace, I know I told you what I was gonna do a few days ago, but I changed my mind because I did some more research and found a different piece that's not as famous, but it's still pretty intriguing.
Ooh, all right. So let me hear.
It's the murder of Stephen Robards, and his daughter is Dorothy Marie Robards, but she's known as Marie. Okay. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't. I was like trying to like rack my brain, like, should I know who Marie is?
This is exciting because usually you know all of these already. Okay.
Well, no, this one I'm excited to hear it.
So I'm going to talk about the crime, and then I'm going to talk about before it happened, and then I'm going to talk about after. The murder of Stephen Robards. So in 1993, Marie was 17 years old, and she and her father were living in Fort Worth, Texas. And one day, she was a senior in high school, she was in science class, and when nobody was looking, she stole one of the vials of barium poison and took it home. And then like a few days later, her father and her like picked up Mexican food for dinner. And at some point in the evening, she like put it in with his Spanish rice. I hope you're not eating Spanish rice right now.
I am. I mean, Spanish rice. Also, I think I might have heard this story, but go on.
Okay. At some point, her father, he eats the rice and then he starts complaining about stomach aches. And like she completely knows what's going on, but she's just like, "Oh, you should go rest." Basically, her father ends up dying later in the hospital. The doctors, they concluded that it was probably a heart attack or something like that because at this point, the machinery that was like required to detect this poison, it was like $150,000 to have that, and I think this is like a smaller little suburb of Fort Worth, and so they didn't have that kind of equipment. So they're like, oh, it's probably just a heart attack, and that was it.
Did this poison cause a heart attack, or
No, they thought it was a heart attack because they didn't have the advanced machinery to detect the poison.
Yeah, and I guess they wouldn't really suspect it.
Yeah, like he had the, I don't know, but she didn't like try to help him in anything. Like he was seeing someone, so she like found the girlfriend. It was like, oh, dad's sick, and then they realized, oh my god, she's like foaming at the mouth. We have to get him out of here, and she just acted like super unsuspecting the whole time. But it sounded like she didn't even try to help.
Like
Which is
very
kind of,
nonchalant.
yeah. Which I don't know, if something like that happened, I'd be screaming. you know.
Yeah, I think if I saw my dad foaming at the mouth, I'd be like, oh my god, call 911.
All right.
I
So
probably would be hysterical.
so let's go back to before the murder. So let's talk about her parents. So Stephen and his ex-wife Beth Lomer, they were high school sweethearts who eventually got married, and like they were both very popular and stuff like that. They ended up getting a divorce because they both changed and it just wasn't clicking anymore. The mother said that her husband started having some personal issues and lashing out and stuff like that, and so hence the divorce. Later, Marie's mom, Beth, remarried a man named Frank Burrows, and he was also divorcee and he had a son. So Stephen became like depressed after he found out that his wife remarried, which is understandable. Like, oh my gosh, that big
Yeah,
change.
for sure. My dad was the same way. Anyways, go on.
But like with Marie, like people. So first of all, Marie and her mom had like a very close bond. Like I don't know if people have seen Gilmore Girls, but based on the descriptions of their closeness, I kind of see it as being kind of like that, where they're more like sisters and best friends than necessarily mother and daughter.
Mhm.
Okay, so at first it was fine because the mom got remarried when Marie was 4. But when she was a teenager, the problem came one day when she came home from school and found out that her stepfather was having an affair because she caught him with another woman, I think in the house even. And so she, of course she told her mom, but the mom was like, no, no, and she basically validated why it happened. Like, no, I've been so busy. He's felt rejected by me because of work. I love him. He'll change. We'll make it work. Basically, the mom's like, no, no, I'm gonna stay with him. And after that, Marie, she was usually very like respectful and did what she was told, but she started having issues where she wouldn't do what her stepfather asked. And like honestly, from this perspective, I can kind of understand. Like you had no respect for the mom, why would I respect you? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And Marie kept telling her mom that she should divorce him. And then her mom kept saying no. And I think Marie got frustrated and she just like moved out with her grandparents on her mother's side. And then less than a week later, she used like all her money, which was $50 at the time, which is still kind of realistic, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, what year was this again? It wasn't too long ago, right?
It's like in the 1990s.
1990s. Okay.
High
Yeah.
school.
Not much has changed.
But the thing is, so she regretted it after less than a week and went try to use her money to like get a bus ticket to go back to her mom. But then Frank wouldn't let her move back in. And he said he had a rule that like apparently years ago his son had a temper tantrum and left and he wouldn't let his son move back in when he came back. And his reason is like, oh, well, the thing is, since it is a family with like step parents and other stuff like that, he didn't want the children to feel like they could go back and forth and cause all that stress and stuff like that. But then the daughter was like, or Marie was like begging her mom, like, please let me back in. And her mom, and she was arguing, and Frank was like, nope, sorry, those are the rules, you know that. And so basically she couldn't go back. And she felt like her mom basically chose him again. And so that's when she ended up going back to living with her dad. And by then he'd like found a job and he'd started dating another woman and he was doing really well. And he was like really excited to like have his daughter home and was like doing all this stuff, like taking her shopping, like doing everything he could for her. But the thing is, so Marie kept complaining that she wanted to go home and how much she hated her school. But the thing is, she was like a straight A student, and eventually it seemed like everything was fine. And so that's kind of why people were so confused when all of a sudden she poisoned her dad. So let's go to after the murder. So this first kind of sad thing is like at his funeral, her mom like pulled Marie aside and was like, so it's like, look, me and Frank are still having problems and I'm moving to Florida and I'm going to take you with me. So we're going to be together again. And then Marie, apparently, the mom said, Marie stared at me. You had this plan all along to take me to Florida. And so the mom realized, like, after the fact that if she told her even a week earlier, none of this would have happened.
So wait, did her mom know at the time?
No, this is at the funeral before she told. So apparently Marie learned that her mom had been making plans to go to Florida with Marie.
Oh, okay.
But hadn't communicated any of it.
Yeah.
So they went to Florida, but then eventually Frank came and tried to like reconcile things with Beth. And of course she let him. I don't know, maybe I sound too judgmental, but I'm just like, this just sounds like a bad situation to begin with.
Yeah, no, it definitely does.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem very ideal whatsoever. So let me just get this straight. She wanted to live with her mom so badly that she was willing to kill her father.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Those are the cold, hard.
Taking things to the extreme. She must really have not liked him.
I don't know. I kind of got the impression, like maybe the close bond was kind of like, I don't know. Later it'll come up where the prosecutors or whatever. I'm really bad with like law jargon. But there is like a narcissist or something like that.
Like self-obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
Like a certain man in power in the United States.
I know, right? But anyway, so Marie told her mom, like, look, you can stay here with him, but I'm not going to do that. I miss Texas. I'm going to go back. And so she ended up moving in with her grandparents on her father's side. And, like, nobody knows at this point. And she acts like the perfect granddaughter. And, like, some people theorize that she did feel guilty and she was trying to make up for what she did. So let's jump to January of 1994. So at this point, Marie's living with her father's parents. And she's already back in Fort Worth. And one of her best friends is named Stacy. In English, I think. They're studying literature, and Hamlet comes up. And then at one point in the study session, like, they're both close friends. But at one point, Marie says very dramatically, my fault is past, but oh, what form of prayer / can serve my turn? Forgive me my foul murder. That cannot be, since I am still possessed of those effects for which I did the murder. So she's quoting it dramatically, unlike how I just read it. But then that's when she tells Stacy, like, I killed my dad. I poisoned him. Please don't tell anybody. And, like, no one would have expected, like, nobody expected this of this girl, because she seemed kind of like us, honestly, like, quiet, that's what she's told, at least back in high school. But
oh, the quiet ones.
I know. But then, so Stacy is, like, killing her, obviously, and eventually she does tell her parents. But then they said they didn't tell the police because they realized it was, like, important for her daughter. Like, she had to grow up at that moment. They knew it was up to her to, like, call the police because, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of confused at the reasons, but I think they realized, oh my gosh, this is the time she really needs to grow up now. So I think within a few days she did call the police or she went to like the school counselor and told them to call the police, and she admitted everything that Marie told her. And so, like, go to 1995, that's when this is all happening, and Marie was like a student at UT Austin, and she's waitressing at TGI Fridays. Oh, wait, Marie was doing all that. I think I'm getting the names confused now because of the small text. Okay.
Mom, right?
Yeah. So on October 18th, Marie Robards is located and arrested in Austin and placed in a juvenile facility in Tarrant County. On October 28th, Marie was released and placed in the custody of her mom and stepdad again.
Wait, what was her name again?
Huh?
I got Marie and the mom confused. Okay, so
Marie is the daughter, Beth is the mom.
Beth, okay. Go on.
Let's see. And so this kind of starts the whole, like, court case process and interviews. And of course, it's, like, national news because it's like, why would this seemingly normal, like, nice 17-year-old kill her father? So in 1996, this is some interesting stuff, Marie tells a reporter that she never actually meant to kill her father. Her only intention was to make him feel sick because she was angry about the divorce. But the thing is, they divorced years when she was like a baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're trying to like build a case that Marie didn't know barium was poisonous and could kill anybody. But it comes out later, both like in the court and from Stacy, that like Marie clearly knew that barium could kill somebody.
Yeah, no. She just decided to sprinkle it into the Spanish rice to give it just that little extra kick.
Yeah, kick to the grave. Okay. If I want kick, I use sriracha.
Sriracha, barium.
I think sriracha is better. It's less lethal.
I think they both add that certain little something to your Spanish rice.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, stick with sriracha and Tabasco and all that stuff.
Well, I sure hope my Spanish rice did not have barium.
Well, I guess we'll know soon.
Find out soon. Stay tuned, y'all.
Gosh. Okay, so more about the court trial. Here's some more interesting facts. So on May 7th, I think it's still 1995, 1996, the court hears testimony from her friend Stacy that Marie did cry when she was admitting what she did, but later she seemed like totally unconcerned with the stuff she had done. Like, I don't know. That makes me think of the narcissism comment of how she cried when she said it, but then she was fine.
Like a sociopath.
Yeah, right?
Like psychopath. I always get those two confused. There's one point I knew the difference, but now there's just kind of a blurred line.
I think it's sociopath, but I'm not 100% sure either.
I read a book once about a psychopath, and it had me afraid of Irishmen for a long time, just because that certain psychopath was Irish.
Oh my gosh.
I love Irishmen, just a disclosure.
Yeah, I know.
Alienating any nationalities here. Y'all are all welcome.
All right. So another fun fact. So a teacher at the high school that the girls attended said that, like, she said this on the witness stand. Like, apparently the principal told her not to tell the police that they had barium in a classroom. And the jurors also heard that the school hid the poison on the campus. I think that's when this all came out.
What? Like it was a cover-up?
I guess. Something like that. And then another fun fact. During the hearing, the court heard, like, a taped confession where Marie admitted that she knew poison could kill her dad. And this is also confirmed by the friend, which I already said. On May 9th, the jury found Marie Robards guilty of murder, and she made, like, a tearful apology to her family and, like, her grandfather, the father of her father. I said that really confusing way. The grandpa on her father's side, he was, like, crying, and everybody was, like, crying. And so on May 10th, the next day, Marie was sentenced to 28 years in prison, and after 7 years, she was eligible for parole. Okay, so let's get to what's going on today. And there's only one thing you need to know, was that she was released in 2003, and according to public records, she is now married and goes by a new identity. So just some uplifting news.
If he's ever come into my workplace.
Like, she is free now, guys, just so you know.
I'm going to look up a picture of her, and then I'm going to stare at every single one that comes into the museum.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's married.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that was a short prison stay. She was like, what, in there? Like
7 years.
7?
8.
Oh.
So I guess good behavior. And they also were saying that she asked if she could, like, get her bachelor's degree while she was in jail, and how she wanted to, like, make good use of her time to try to make up for what she'd done and all this other stuff. But I really don't know whether I believe any of it.
She definitely sounds like a sociopath, yeah. There's probably that woman that yelled at me today, or one of them.
Don't piss them off and don't eat anything until you go home and make it yourself.
Yeah.
Why don't we look up the definition of sociopath?
Cute. And while you look it up, I'm just gonna say, I finished off this bottle of wine in 2 days. That's personal record.
Oh, that's
I'm
good.
not an alcoholic.
Oh, wait, here it is. Okay, sociopath. A person with a personality disorder, no shit, manifesting itself in extreme antisocial attitudes and behavior and a lack of conscience. Sounds like her.
Kind
But
of
not
sounds like her. Maybe.
psychopath.
Yeah. What's the definition of psychopath?
A person suffering from chronic mental disorder with abnormal or violent social behavior. I think it's the first one. Because I always think of, like, Sherlock for sociopath. Like, he's very detached from everything.
Yeah, definitely. I think he even says he's a sociopath in the TV
Yeah,
show.
literally, right before he shoots that one guy in season 2, he was like, I'm not a genius, I'm a highly functioning sociopath.
And that started an obsession on Tumblr.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, those were dark days.
We are Benedict Cumberbatch fans, by the way. At least I am still.
They had, the longest time on ModCloth, they had like a crop top that was a sweater, and it was just a collage of pictures of him. But of course, by the time I found it, they were all sold out.
I would hope for one.
The one though that I own. Which reminds me, I don't think yesterday I finished my story about Jeff Goldblum. When he did his little panel at the Comic-Con, he sang Deep in the Heart of Texas.
I wish we could make that our montage or something.
I think I was recording it. No, maybe not. But I definitely started a little earlier than the crowd because he wanted the crowd to join in. And I was like, deep in! And then everyone was like, deep in the heart. I was like, oh God. A little too excited, and I jumped the gun. Hello, how's it going?
Hi, Candace. I'm good. How are you?
Awesome, doing great.
It's been a while since I've seen you.
It's been a while. For those of you who are wondering maybe why the audio quality sounds better from the first half, that is because we are filming with are recording with our own mics. The first half of the episode we recorded via Skype, but the audio cut out the last 2 minutes.
Yay!
So, we're recording this again for the second time and hopefully the final time. But, are you ready for a ghost story, Katie?
I am.
Alright, so I'm going to tell you about the ghosts that reside at Presidio La in Goliad, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so southeast of San Antonio, about 2 hours. It was established in 1749 as a military fortress, which is kind of the difference between a Presidio and then like a mission. So mission was mainly to convert Native Americans to Christianity, and then Presidios were for churches for military fortresses for the soldiers. So they had tried to build Presidio La Bahia in 2 different places, but they finally moved it near the San Antonio River where it now presides today. It is one of the only Spanish fortresses in Texas. Originally, Goliad was named La Bahia, which is where the Presidio got its name from. There's another mission in Goliad named I'm going to butcher this. Mission Espiritu Santo.
Let me see the name.
This white girl don't know how to speak Spanish. I apologize.
Espiritu Santo.
What Katie said.
And I'm Asian. Hey.
So this mission served as a chapel for the locals and the native people who were forced to convert to Catholicism. So 2 people are actually buried on the property of the Presidio. Augustus McGee, who was a leader at the Presidio at one point, and a woman named Annie Taylor. No one knows who she is or why she's buried there.
It's the Black-Eyed Kids.
They're outside. So 7 priests are also rumored to be buried on the property. Presidio La Bahia played a major role in not only the Texas Revolution, but in the fate of those who died at the Alamo. On October 10th of 1835, Texians overtook the Presidio from the Mexicans. They knocked down a door on the north wall and stormed the courtyard. The Mexicans heard the commotion, the Mexican army.
Is this the This was still when Santa Anna was, like, the leader, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I remember some Texas 7th grade history.
Oh, I remember all Texas 7th grade history, let me tell ya. That's why I have this podcast, to just talk about my love for the Texas history. So yeah, this is kind of like pre-revolution. They knocked down a door on the north wall and stormed the courtyard. The Mexicans heard the commotion and defended the fort as best they could. They shot Samuel McCullough, who was a freed slave, in the shoulder, making him the first injured man in the Texas Revolution. But he survived. And the fighting lasted for about 30 minutes. During a pause, a Texian, being Texan, gloated, "Massacre every one of you unless you come out immediately and surrender." Which they did immediately. They immediately surrendered. Little did they know that that phrase would come back and bite them in the ass. In December of 1835, the Texas Declaration of Independence was signed in the chapel at the altar.
Oh my.
Which I had no idea. So eventually, a man named Colonel Fannin became the commander. Now, Colonel Fannin and his men were sent there to restore the Presidio and prepare it for battle. While they were there, he renamed it Fort Defiance because Colonel Fannin was a little full of himself and he wasn't a great leader, as you're about to see. So William Barrett Travis, who was a defender of the Alamo, asked for help multiple times, but Fannin was very late to respond. On February 26th, they began the 90-mile journey from Goliad to the Alamo. They brought with them 320 men, 4 cannons, and several supply wagons. Literally less than 200 yards into their journey, a wagon breaks down and they were forced to stop for repairs. So already, this was off to a great start.
Oh my.
I think like a black cat must have just like crossed their path and
Don't blame the cat.
Incinerated,
Blame
yeah.
ill preparation.
yeah, no, just wait. So they had to cross the waist-deep river to get to the other side, and then by the time they crossed a river, a cool front came in, making them chilled and miserable. The next morning, they realized they forgot to pack food for the journey, and the oxen carrying the wagons had wandered off. So not only did they not have food, but they did not have the oxen to carry the wagons back to get food.
Isn't, like, the first priority when you pack for anything, like, oh, let's make sure we have snacks, or, I don't know, food money?
Right, could you imagine the guy who was supposed to be in charge of packing food, and he's
Well,
like,
was it the problem that they didn't give someone that job?
I have no idea.
Who knows?
I have no idea, but I can just imagine that'd probably be me, like, alright, Candace, fire up them beans, we're hungry, okay. Goes and looks in the cart. Oh, shit.
Oh. Wait, I'm supposed to do that? I thought someone else was.
That would be me, though.
You're the Candace, fire up the grill.
Oh,
Okay, here's the grill.
Weird.
Candace.
Hands you a plate full of grass. What is this?
Salad.
Salad.
I'm pretty sure that person probably got beaten up a few times.
Oh, they probably killed him and ate him. Just kidding.
Yeah, okay. Cannibalism isn't something we should condone in this podcast.
Cannibalism is frowned upon here. Or no, wait, but that's cannibalism. And that's frowned upon.
It better be.
What was the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory quote?
I did not catch it.
Okay.
Continue. They did not have food.
Yeah, so
And
anyways.
the ox had wandered.
Yeah, so they had to spend most of the day wrangling the oxen, and in the first 2 days of their travel, they only made it a mile from the fort. Yeah.
Why don't they just go back to the fort and get food?
Well, that's what they had to do. So they had to turn back, and unfortunately, they were never able to make it to the Alamo. But if you know the fate of those people at the Alamo, those people are gonna die in a much worse way. Anyways. Fannin and his men began preparing the Presidio for battle as the Mexican army approached. So by this time, they had already defeated the Alamo, and they kind of figured that they'd be coming this way. Houston ordered Fannin to retreat back to Victoria immediately, but guess what? He waited several days to retreat. He met the Mexican army at Colito Creek and fought back. In the process, he surrendered at the Battle of Colito Creek after 41 out of 350 of his men were wounded. So it wasn't a huge hit, but he knew that that was a battle they weren't going to win. He was also injured himself, and they ran out of drinking water, which I think was the main reason he decided to surrender. But if you know anything about Santa Anna, he took no prisoners. If you surrendered, you were basically completing suicide. The men that could walk there were marched back to the chapel, and the injured were carted a day later. They were held inside the chapel. It was so crowded that many had to stand. As they were being marched back to the Presidio, though, that they were told that they would be let free in 8 days. However, Santa Anna, being Santa Anna, signed the orders to execute them. On March 27th, 1836, which was Palm Sunday, the Mexican army split them up into 3 groups of 100 and marched them in different directions. One was told they would be gathering wood, another that they would be driving cattle, and the last were being marched to New Orleans, where there'd be a prison waiting for them, or something like that. They were executed on orders of Santa Anna. So basically, they were marched single file, and then there were the Mexican army on either side of them, halted suddenly, and then all of the soldiers went to one side and began shooting at them. The 41 men that were injured and who stayed behind were executed inside the fort. However, the doctors were allowed to live. There were a few doctors that were there, so they kept them.
Because they were useful?
Yeah, because they were useful. So doctors were allowed to live. They dragged each of the injured men into the quadrangle and shot them. Fannin was the last to die. So they set him up in a chair in the courtyard, and before he died, he made 3 wishes. His first wish was not to be shot in the face. Second, he wanted to return his belongings returned to his family. And third, he wanted to be given a Christian burial. And they literally went against each of his wishes. They burned his body, stole his things, and they shot him in the face.
Well, assholes.
So 28 men were able to escape. Some were saved by a woman who would be known to be named as the Angel of Goliad, Francita Alves. And this event was known as the Goliad Massacre, which you could hear shouts of "Remember Goliad" at the Battle of San Jacinto, which won Texas its independence. So just to kind of put this in perspective, only 200 men died protecting the Alamo, and nearly 320 men died in the Goliad Massacre.
Oh my.
Definitely a lot more bloodshed. And I'm sure a lot of confusion from the people that were killed, which is probably why their spirits still haunt the area. They did not see it coming, probably. Anyways, as the Texian army moved through Goliad, they did a mass burial for the fallen. And where the mass grave is, there is now a monument dedicated to Fannin and his men. For a while, though, the mass grave was unknown until a dog dug up some bones and brought them home.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Can you remember? Like, "Freya, what you got, Freya? Come here, give it to me." And it's like, oh, human skull. Great. So it's believed that the soldiers are still there today. You can hear them wailing and crying. You can hear, people have caught EVPs. They've seen full-body apparitions. They hear people speaking in Spanish, and they claim they feel that they're being watched. You can hear guns, cannons, and music being played. You can actually stay at the mission, or the Presidio.
I'm good.
And inside, I've actually spent the night there twice, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But you can feel cold spots in the living quarters, sounds of babies crying near the chapel, sounds of a woman's choir also near the chapel. A short friar appears in front of the chapel doors and wanders the quadrangle. A woman in white appears in front of the chapel, and it's believed she's searching for the unmarked graves of the priests. A soprano voice has been heard singing in the museum, and organ music too.
Oh my.
A woman in black has also been spotted by the candle offerings inside the chapel. Passerby and automobiles have reported seeing a ghostly form in their vehicle as they cross the nearby San Antonio River, which is one of the things that freaks me out the most when I'm driving home alone at night.
That you'll get a surprise visitor who's looking for something.
I don't know what's worse, just an unwanted hitchhiker in your car, or a black-eyed child.
I still think the child.
Probably. So lights have also been seen burning late at night inside the chapel when no one's in there, and strange mumbling voices have been also heard outside the chapel. Ghosts like to bang on the doors and walls to get your attention. People have heard walking on the roof of the living quarters, as well as phantom footsteps, the sounds of cannons going off throughout the Presidio.
Why do I immediately think of Les Mis? Phantom faces in the window.
Oh, man. I do not want any phantom faces in the window, though.
We could.
We good.
Yeah, just have a lovely picture of Audrey Hepburn.
That's why people have blinds in their rooms. Talking to you, Beck, from you. People have also seen ghostly soldiers marching in the area. So, like I said, you can stay at the quarters if you like. It was renovated in the 60s and is the oldest standing fort west of the Mississippi. Most recently, there are 13 graves that were unearthed. So, yeah, would you like to hear my experiences?
I would.
Alrighty. So, I've stayed there twice. The second time I stayed the night there, I didn't really experience anything, mainly because I was super scared. So, I took some anxiety medication.
Candace.
I downed it with some whiskey. Don't do this, kids. Don't do this at home.
Yeah.
I am not endorsing this. I slept for like 18 hours and my family was very worried. Oh my gosh, no. So the first night we went outside and we were kind of walking around because the great thing about this place is that you get the whole place to yourself. So they lock the museum and the chapel, but you get the entire fort to yourself. And no one can really get in or out unless they, like, jump over the walls.
You can't get out?
Well, I mean, you can get out through the front door of the living quarters, but, you know, if you don't have a key, you can't get in.
So they lock you in?
Yeah, no, they don't lock us in. So the first night out, we go outside and we're walking in, like, the quadrangle, and we heard... My grandpa did, sorry. This is just him. He heard a little kid, like, run up behind him, and he thought it was me, so he turned around and no one was there. And I just remember him, like, so this is kind of like a burly man, very tough, rides motorcycles.
Did he scream like a girl?
No, he didn't scream like a girl, but I remember he, like, came running in and he looked really scared, which was something I've never seen before.
Oh, well, that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have screamed like a girl. I am a girl. I would have screamed like a little boy. I don't know.
So later on, my Nana got her butt grabbed.
Okay.
We were, like, in the quadrangle outside, and we saw what looked like a shadow, and we kind of, like, went to investigate it as we were walking. Yeah, she said she felt her butt get grabbed.
Damn.
So she, like, turns around. No one's there behind her. We did catch an EVP. This is probably, like, one of the scariest things that happened to me while I was there. So I'm, like, walking, and I thought I felt, like, crickets kind of, like, jumping on my legs, like, on my ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt something kind of, it was almost, like, grabbing, like, lightly, like, hang on.
Don't do it.
It was, like, a lightly, like, and so I was like, oh, I think there's something on my legs, and in the EVP, you hear something go, Candace.
Ah!
Yeah, so super creepy, freaked me out, to be completely honest. So that same night, we were, outside doing some more EVP, and my mom heard what sounded like a cannon go off almost in her ear. Like, I heard it too. It was super loud, and it sounded to me like someone, like, ran over a pothole or something.
Yeah.
Like they were carrying, like, a trailer, but it was like a loud bang! And my mom was like, no, it sounded almost like it went off right in my ears. We saw shadows, orbs, lights flickering, like we couldn't explain it. At 3 a.m. we were going to, how did that work? We decided later that night that we were going to kind of take a little nap because a lot had already happened. And at 3 a.m. we were going to get up again, and we were going to go over to Colonel Fannon's monument.
Wait, why at 3 a.m.?
The witching hour. Also, we were tired and needed a nap. Anyway, so I remember kind of waking up, and I heard voices talking in the living room, and then I heard the ice chest sliding around, and so I was like, oh, that must be them, and I kind of waited, and then I heard the rocking chair rock, and my grandparents never came to wake me up. And so, like, the next morning, I asked them, I was like, we heard, like, my mom and I, we were sleeping in the same room, we're like, we heard you, why didn't y'all come wake us up? And they're like, we slept through, like, we just now woke up. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I'm kind of glad I didn't go out and check, because if I saw something in there, oh, I would have been out the door in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I think I'm too squeamish to go there at night.
It's
Like, touring the Alamo during the day is fine, but doing something like this is like...
Oh, this is at Presido La Bahia, not
I know, but just like, I could do something like take a tour during the day,
Gotcha.
like, with groups of people, not like 3 a.m.
It's actually really cool, and I would love to do this again. I think it'd be cool for us to stay in haunted places and do, like, podcasts.
For the
from there.
podcast, I will. Okay, I have to bring Josh.
Okay. But anyways, another very scary thing that happened to me there was a very weird dream.
Oh, great.
So it was almost kind of like sleep paralysis. I remember in my dream, like, waking up and I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. And I see there's, like, the outline, like a silhouette of a woman on the wall. She had, like, her hair in a high, sleek bun, and she was wearing sort of like a ruffled collar. It was like a gray dress, almost like very Victorian. It went all the way down. She had sleeves, and you could see where it kind of went in at the waist, and then it kind of poofed out.
I feel like I can remember this. Picture this in my head before you describe it, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, well, this is the second time you're hearing it, at least the second time. But this lady was angry. She was so angry. I could just feel the anger, like, seeping off of her. And then my bedroom door was, like, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, and closing, like, slamming.
I feel like I'm just picturing Cinderella's stepmom, to be honest.
Yeah, kind of. But it was like I knew she didn't want me there. And the only reason why I knew it was a dream was because in the dream my mom was reacting to seeing this.
Wait, your mom was seeing this too?
In my dream, but when I woke up in the morning and told her about it, like, she didn't experience it also, so it was a dream.
Ah.
So I almost wonder if it was, like, the lady who was buried on the property, or, like, one of the people buried on the property, because they did unearth, like, 13 graves.
Oh my gosh.
We ended up, like, telling the people about it. The cleaning woman actually said that there was one time she didn't clean a room because she saw an older woman wearing a gray dress in the rocking chair, and she thought that the family hadn't left yet. And so she went back, and they were like, no, they checked out, they gave us the keys, they're gone. And so the cleaning lady goes back, and there's no one in the room.
That sounds scary, man. Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about what people have experienced here. So a paranormal team caught an EVP saying doesn't fit in front of the chapel. They caught furniture being moved and the locks being messed with. They also saw strange mist gathering in the southeast corner of the Presidio. A team member froze and sort of, like, started staring off into the distance, and they couldn't snap him out of this trance. And when he finally came to, he claimed that he saw the aftermath of the massacre. He said he saw boys that weren't big enough to shave, like bodies rotting and stacked on top of each other. They also experienced hearing horse hooves outside the quarters, banging on a bedroom door, and a humanoid shadow in a living room. Okay, and so I have one person's ghost story to finish it off. I investigated the Presidio in July 2010. I did an EVP session in the chapel to try to make contact with the spirit of a monk who has been seen. I did not know this time that Colonel James Fannin had been executed right outside the chapel. I took some pictures and asked to speak to anyone who was there. Because it was a hot July day, I prepared to leave the chapel when suddenly the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I felt the temperature drop at least 30 degrees. I switched my recorder back on and said what I was expecting, or what I was experiencing, and then said, "Is this you, Colonel Fannin?" When I played the recording back, I heard a clear response stating, "I'm here." Yeah. At the time I was wearing my U.S. Army veteran cap and believe I got the response because Colonel Fannin was responding to a fellow soldier.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that's the story of the Presidio La Bahia. You can stay there. I think it's like $200 a night, but it's definitely cool. I recommend it.
Well, guys, that just means you get to keep listening to us, so you can be sponsored to do this.
Also, there's our favorite winery down the road in Refugio, Texas, that makes the blackberry wine. It's called, like, Texas Southwinds Vineyards. They're not sponsored, but hey, if y'all want to sponsor us, hit me up.
Oh my gosh, it's the best wine.
Yeah.
Like, I think I might try to go to Texas over the summer at some point. Try to bring my fiance / if he's my husband by then, and bring my husband. Could be great. He can be the designated driver.
He can be?
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. So with that being said, let's do some tarot readings.
All right. I'll shuffle this time.
You want to shuffle? Okay.
I can try. This might be really embarrassing.
Where'd they go?
Where'd you put the tarot cards, Candace?
Oh, I found him. I was like, y'all, tarot cards just straight up disappeared.
I'm like, this isn't creepy at all. All right, guys. Let's see if I can shuffle these.
You're supposed to do kind of like overhand.
Oh. Sorry, Mike. This is a fail.
This is why the tarot cards hate us.
Oh! Yeah, I suck. Okay. How do you do that?
You're supposed to do it like this. So you don't shuffle them like deck cards, you just kind of
Oh, I see.
sort of do like that. And then you cut the deck into 3 stacks.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna let you do it then.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you do it. Never mind, guys.
Ooh, what is this? The 5 of swords. I don't feel like this is a good one either.
What is with this, guys? This is why I have to listen to us so we get better karma in our tarot readings.
5 of swords. Oh, God.
Let me see.
Do you want to read it?
Yes. Do I want to?
No.
Yet another card of warning. It knows. The 5 of Swords depicts the destruction of the self. Candace! Okay.
I'm telling you, they're mad at me. I'm sorry.
You'll be lured into another situation or argument you know to avoid. Your selfishness and desire for power will lead you to defeat. Pain and discord will result. Guys?
I'm starting to think this podcast may not be a good idea.
Self-destruction. I don't know what this means. Maybe we just need to be more chill about stuff.
Maybe.
I blame you.
I think it means just choose your battles wisely. But take that for what you may. Maybe you have some problems in your life that you can... Forgiving, yeah. Use that. Take that for what you will. Yeah. So with that being said, just wanted to thank our lovely editor, John, for doing such a great job. He's the one who's creating those really cool Morse codes you're hearing at the end of episodes. If you think you know what the message is at the end of this episode, you can tweet at us at DITHOT podcast or email us at deadintheheartoftexas@gmail.com.
Sounds good.
All right. Just remember, don't let black-eyed kids into your car.